Brooke Crawford is a Melbourne-based author whose short stories have been published in 3 anthologies. Her debut novel, Better Than the Real Thing, will be published by HQ HarperCollins in December 2025. Brooke's stories follow relatable characters as they find their way through life and love in their 40s. They make you laugh and cry, and you feel like you're hanging out with friends as you turn the pages, and I can actually testify to that because when I read Better Than the Real Thing, I really felt like I was hanging out with a bunch of friends. Brooke lives in Melbourne's inner west where the creative vibes are strong, the cafes are many, and the coffee is good. Her partners in crime are her 3 young children, an accidental cat, and her leading man who gave her a laptop for her 40th birthday and said, maybe it's time to stop talking about it and just do it. She did, and it's turning out pretty well. I first came across Brooke's writing when I judged the Opal Award for the Romance Writers of Australia in 2023. It's an award for unpublished writers. And there were a number of those openings and excerpts that I really loved, but there was one standout, and it was called, at that time, Just Press Play. I was so excited by the writing that I really wanted that particular entry to win, even though I didn't know who the writer was. It was all very anonymous. And when the judges convened, I fought tooth and nail to get this particular manuscript across the finish line. And I wasn't alone. It was a reasonably unanimous decision. It wasn't surprising then when publishers immediately showed interest in the manuscript, and very soon after, Brooke had a contract with HQ HarperCollins. I'm so happy to have Brooke joining me on the Convo Couch today to talk about the soon-to-be-released rom-com, Better Than the Real Thing. And for paid Substack subscribers, we do have a bonus ep where Brooke will share her advice and tips for aspiring authors as someone who's really in the hot seat and going through the whole publishing process for the first time as we speak. So without further ado, let's get on and chat to Brooke about her debut novel, Better Than the Real Thing. All right. Brooke Crawford, welcome to the Rights for Women Convo Couch.
Thank you so much for having me, Pamela. This is a huge thrill. Thank you very much.
I'm really excited to have you here, and I'm just so happy for you that this manuscript is coming out. And I'm so happy for readers, actually, as someone who has already read it. And just as you know, I have sung its praises to you and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm really excited for it to be out in the world and for other people to be able to experience it as well.
Thank you. Me too. It's been a fairly swift journey in the scheme of things, but it has still felt like a long time coming. So yeah, I'm excited for it to be out too and to share it with everybody.
Before we get on to the kind of actual story writing and publication and all that sort of thing, can we go back in time a little bit, or might be a long way, to where you first thought, oh, I think I want to write or I want to be a writer?
I think, like a lot of writers, my answer is that I think I've always wanted to be a writer. When I was a kid, I always had my nose in a book. It just was my thing. I was a reader. And I think that very early on, I became a kid who wanted to write stories. And I did. I wrote all through school. And then I think, as often happens when you finish school, that stuff gets left behind and you're pursuing a career and all those sorts of things. So the short answer is I've always wanted to be a writer, but I didn't become a writer until I was 40. So it took me a while to get there, but I got there in the end.
Yeah. I know it's a very familiar story, isn't it? Like so many people that I talk to. It's really interesting, actually, because it's either one extreme or the other. It's like people like you and, oh no, having said that, I'm middle road because I did write when I was younger, but I never thought that writing could be a thing, like that you could be a writer. But then a lot of people just find themselves in a situation where they think, I've got to do something creative, and they start writing and that's what sparks it. But for you, I think it was it COVID related?
Yeah. It was a trio of events. I turned 40, which at the time felt fairly momentous. And a few weeks after that, I gave birth to our 3rd baby. And then 8 weeks after he was born, COVID started. And we live in Melbourne, so the lockdowns were pretty horrible. And it just made me realize that I had 2 choices. I could have a go and fail and deal with that, or I could never have a go and always live with that thought of what might have happened if I had given it a go. And I think the answer to that question for me when I was younger was that it was safer to just not try, because it was such an amazing, special dream of mine that I almost didn't want to know that it wouldn't come to fruition. But by that stage of my life, the fear of regret was far greater than the fear of failure. So I just thought, I'm going to give it a go and see what happens. And it turned out to be something that it just felt like it was what I should have been. It was such joy to sit down every night and write during that time. And yeah, I've never regretted it for a second.
I think that too is a common story. I think a lot of people got into writing or back to writing during COVID. And funny you should say about the third baby, because it was when I had my third daughter that I started back into a serious kind of writing journey. So maybe it's the creative juices flowing or something. Yeah.
So realizing how precious your time is,
Yeah, that's right. Like you say, hitting 40, you're getting to midlife almost and thinking, okay, what's next? Yeah, I think it is a time where we really start to really reflect, isn't it? And think about what do we want to be doing with the rest of our lives? So when you did start writing during COVID, was it on this manuscript?
No, I had the idea for this, but I also had an idea for a middle grade novel. And that felt like a safer kind of way to dip my toe in the water. So I wrote that middle grade novel that year and I just had so much fun with it. I still love that story. I should dig it up and read it. But I wrote the middle grade novels first and I sat down and wrote 500 words a night. And getting to the end, I feel like that was a real moment. I put my mask on, I went to Officeworks, I had it printed out, and it just felt so amazing to hold a finished book that I had written. That then gave me the confidence to write the thing that I really wanted to write, which was the story that has now become better than the real thing.
Isn't it amazing that I can do it? So you start to really believe that it's possible. And then, so how did that process go for you when you did sit down? You were writing 500 words or so a night. How did you approach the writing of it was called Just Press Play, wasn't it, to start with?
Was, yes,
Your
called
real-
Just Press Play for a very long time until it was acquired.
Yeah.
I think with that one, I just wanted to see where it would go. And I started it in 2021. I wrote about 15,000 words. And again, I was just sitting down every night after the kids went to bed and getting a little bit more out. But that year was also the year that I started my copywriting business, and that became busy very quickly. And it very rapidly got to a point where I felt like I was pretty close to burning out because I had all the kids at home. I was homeschooling my eldest son. The business was really busy, and I was also trying to write this book. And I just felt like I had to put a plate down. I couldn't keep them all spinning. So it was the book that I put away, which was horrible, but it just was what had to happen. But then I came back to it a couple of years later because the story just would not leave me alone. It was just constantly there. Luckily, I found a way to make it work when things had settled a bit. My son was at school. I wasn't homeschooling anymore, and I could give it a little bit more attention.
Yeah. And how did you approach the writing of it, Brooke, once you got back into it? Were you just, the story was in your head and you were just getting it all down on the page? Were you plotting as you went? How did that work for you?
When I came back to it, I had the story in my head, but I just could not move forward with it. I felt very stuck and frozen. I just couldn't get past that first chunk that I'd already written. So I enrolled in a weekend called the Novelist Bootcamp Weekend that was run by the Queensland Writers Centre. And I flew up to Brisbane for the weekend to do the course. And it was the first time that I'd invested money and time like that in myself as a writer. And the course was run by Kim Wilkins, who's a very prolific Australian author. She's incredible. And I just felt like her teaching pulled the cork out of the bottle. And when I came home, the rest of the story just came out. Obviously not as straightforward as that, but it was something that I felt able for, whereas before I had felt completely paralyzed by. And I just wrote and plotted as I went, really. I knew where I was going. I knew the major turning points, but I don't plan how I'm going to get there because I feel like sometimes a bit of the magic is lost if I'm too tightly planned.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you got to the end of your first draft.
Yeah.
And then what did you do from there? Did you think, oh, now I've got to work out how to revise this thing? Or did you seek further help or workshops? How did you approach that?
I did. I redrafted it a few times myself. because I wanted to make sure I was happy to share it with people. Then I had a couple of beta readers read it, trusted beta readers who are also writers, which was really great because their feedback was very helpful. But I also paid for a structural assessment, which was extraordinary because it helped me see holes in the story that I had not been able to see, and she gave advice that helped me really strengthen the plotline before I submitted. So that was my process, but I went over and over that draft. I couldn't even tell you how many times. It was a very vigorous process. I think if I read that first draft now, I'd be horrified.
Yes. Don't worry, we're all the same. So during this period when you were drafting and revising, were you part of a writers group?
Yeah, so I am a part of Write Squad, which is run by Jodie Gibson, and I also attend a local writers group called Bad Writers Club, which is run out of a beautiful bookshop in West Footscray. And also I have writing friends who I communicate with a lot online. So even though I was writing it on my own, I didn't feel alone in the process. Yeah, so I think writers groups for me anyway have been a really valuable part of the journey towards publication, for sure.
I want to come back a little bit later to how you managed to get your publishing contract, which I've mentioned in the intro about the Opal and you submitting to that through Romance Writers of Australia. But I think before we go any further, we need to maybe let listeners know what the book's about. So do you want to give us your blurb or elevator pitch or a mix of the two, whatever you prefer?
Sure. I think every writer would say that it's easier to write the book than summarize it, but I'll have a go.
Yeah.
So Better Than the Real Thing is the story of Netta Phillips. She's a 39-year-old teacher from Melbourne. And one day she finds an old notebook hidden under the floorboards in her house, which turns out to be the childhood diary of Morrison Maplestone, who's now a really famous musician who lives in London. And when he discovers that she has it, he is very keen to get it back because it contains information that is past that he cannot have made public. So he offers to pay her to bring it to him in London. And she says no initially because she has made a promise to herself never to go back there after something that happened earlier on in her life. But when her relationship ends, she finds herself in a bit of financial instability. And so she reluctantly accepts his offer and off she goes. And I think, what follows is a fun Christmas time romance in London, but it's underpinned by some deeper issues like fertility, infidelity, childhood trauma. And I think really at its core, it's a story about what happens when you find the courage to forgive yourself for the decisions you made or the things you did when you were too young to know any better.
Fantastic summary, Brooke. Well done. And I have got a question for you later about those kind of more nitty-gritty issues that you tackle as part of the story as well. Netta and Mo, as you mentioned, are the main characters, and I absolutely adored these two. I just thought you did such a great job. Netta is this very ordinary person. She's a school teacher, just living her ordinary life with dreams that everybody has when they're at that stage of their life. But then you've got Mo, who is this kind of not really a fading celebrity, but he's been out there for a while. He's had the scandals. He's a bit worn and jaded. And you capture that, what I imagine is that kind of life so brilliantly too. Can you tell us, first of all, a little bit about Netta and then about Mo and how you went about pitting them almost against each other, but then putting them into that situation where you do develop that kind of rom-com storyline for them?
Yeah. So Netta as I mentioned, she's a teacher. She's 39. She's about to turn 40. And at the start of the book, she's living with her partner in the inner west suburbs of Melbourne, living a very normal life, as you said. And she's trying to have a baby without a great deal of success. So I think Netta's personality she's pretty down to earth. She's warm. She's funny. She's intelligent. And she just wants to have a normal, calm life because there was a big incident in her past when she was 20 that really put her in the spotlight, and she's just not interested in anything like that anymore. She just wants to have a nice, calm, normal life with a family. Obviously, that's not what she gets because that would make for a pretty dull book. But I think when I was writing Netta initially, there was a lot of me in her. And it took me quite a long time to establish Netta's backstory. It changed a lot. That wound that she has in the story started off as something entirely different and changed quite a lot to where it is now. So that she took a lot more development than Mo just arrived.
Yeah, I can understand how.
Yeah,
'Cause
you know,
just
he's
such
such a
great
big
character.
force. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just there. I could see him. I could see what he looked like. I could hear his voice. I knew his story. And before I wrote the first draft, I had written Mo's backstory. It was just in my head and I knew I had to get it out. So I knew him pretty well. And so he hasn't changed a lot since the first draft. Yeah, but I adore Mo. I think he's a character that appears to be one thing, but is actually a lot more under the surface.
Yeah, which is great fodder for a writer, isn't it? Because there's
Yeah.
so much more to play with. You want
Yes.
to be alluding to things that had happened, but not letting the reader know up front and all of that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
he's perfect for that. And you've also got a fantastic kind of support cast, as
Yeah.
all wonderful rom-coms do. You know, we have this amazing kind of support cast. There's Freya, who's Netta's best friend, and I love that. That's my daughter's name, so I was very excited about that. And then there's Pete, her partner, when
Yeah.
we meet her at the beginning of the story. There's Rona and Don, who Rona is Mo's manager, and she's a really great character as well. And their whole family vibe that comes across. I don't want to give away too many things, but and then there's Mo's brother Mav, and another lovely character I want to ask you about too, and how she appeared, called Audrey. But do you want to tell us a little bit about some of those characters and how they appeared in the story for you?
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning the supporting characters because I really love them. And I really wanted to have a strong ensemble because I feel like that's what really makes like a movie like Notting Hill
Yeah.
or Bridget Jones, the Bridget Jones movies, they are made so much better by the friendships and the sort of background characters that are there. They provide a lot of humor and a lot of the lightness. So that was important to me. Freya, I adore Freya. She's very frank with Netta. She knows Netta inside and out, so she can be very sometimes brutally honest with her. And I would say that she is an amalgam of a lot of my girlfriends. I'm lucky enough to have girlfriends who I've known for a long time. So she came pretty easily, actually. I think my favorite supporting character to write was Rona. And she was really interesting to write because I felt like I almost didn't have much to do with her. She just came out and she would often say things and I would write it and go, it's really funny, or I didn't expect her to say that. It really did feel like I wasn't much a part of her. She just was already there. It's a very big personality. But Audrey, who is Netta's friend in London, a friend that she makes in London, was not in any of the initial first drafts.
Okay. Yeah, I wondered about that because she's not huge. She's not in it all the time, but she's a really lovely kind of person for Netta to bounce things off, isn't she?
Yeah. And she was actually a really big learning curve for me because in the initial versions of the story, Netta was still talking to Freya on the phone while she was in London and having lots of these conversations with Freya. And I got some very good advice that Freya couldn't be there in London. I needed to delineate those two worlds better.
Right.
And to do that, giving Netta a person in London was a good way of doing it. So Audrey was created, and I think she made the story so much stronger having her there, and having an older woman became a really lovely new element to the story as well.
She's almost like a mentor, isn't she, to Netta in a way?
Yeah.
Plays
Yeah,
role.
she definitely is. I think she's a source of wisdom, but also just a bit of a buffer for Netta as well. Netta's feeling quite uncomfortable in this situation that she's in when she's in London when she first gets there, and just having Audrey there as a friend and a confidant mentor, it's a comfort for Netta. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you say, I think it's really important, particularly for this style of story or this genre, to have that supporting cast in that we see all the different quirky personalities, which is funny in itself, like you say with Rona. But it
Mhm.
gives you so much opportunity for dialogue, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
putting Netta and Mo into different situations with these various people where they can
Yes.
talk through things. Those different characters give different reflections back on your main characters, don't they?
They do because they know the characters in different settings and for different lengths of time. So those supporting characters are able to give a different lens to look at the main characters through.
Were there any characters that you had originally that you removed, or was that pretty much it apart from adding
No,
Audrey?
no, there wasn't. Uh, Yeah, I just added Audrey. She was an addition, but everybody else was already there.
And you mentioned obviously that a big part of the story is set in London, but
Mm.
Netta's kind of home base here in Australia is in St Kilda. And those two settings come through really strongly in the novel. Can you talk a little bit about how those two places were kind of special for you and why you chose those places as the settings?
Yeah, St Kilda I chose because it's a very iconic part of Melbourne. It's by the sea. There's really old architecture there. There's new architecture. It's very energetic and fun, and there's a really good contrast between the kind of grit and underbelly of it and the wealth that is there now too. Texturally, it's a really nice environment, but on an emotional level, I lived there for a long time when I was younger, and I've just always loved it. The best times of my life happened there. Some of the worst times of my life happened there. So I have a really strong emotional connection to that suburb. And so I've always wanted to write something that I could set in St Kilda. So it was a nice opportunity for me to do that. London, I chose London because, as I said, I started writing it during lockdowns and I just wanted to go somewhere different.
You were
And
vicariously traveling.
yes. Yeah. And I actually had never been to London. It was somewhere that I'd always wanted to go to. So I had a huge amount of fun researching London and all the settings and the things that could happen there. And then once the book was acquired and I realized that, oh, it's actually going to be published, I go there and see if I've got it right. So I was really fortunate to be able to organize a research trip where I spent some time in all of the settings in the book, just checking that I'd got it right. And it was just magical, Pamela, to be there and to follow Netta's footsteps. It felt like walking onto the set of Friends or something. It just
Yeah,
felt
yeah.
really surreal to be there. And yeah, I feel very lucky to have been able to do that.
Oh, that would have been fantastic. And did you find then that you were layering in different elements of the setting once you were actually there?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mm.
there's a lot of great information you can find on the internet, but you can't get that sensory experience that you have when you're actually in those settings. So it allowed me to deepen the descriptions and refine them so that they were more accurate. And then I spent another week in another part of England researching the setting for a second book. So it was just the most incredible experience. I feel so lucky.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Is the second book connected to the first or is it standalone?
It's a standalone.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping we get to see Netta and Mo again, but we may not. I might just have to read the book again. You talked a little bit earlier about kind of more serious aspects of the story and the wounds of the characters. And that's what makes a character a really rounded, three-dimensional person in a way, because they're not cardboard cutouts. They've got these pasts that, as writers, we allude to them. They're going through different things as a result of those pasts. Two questions, I guess, around that. How did you go about weaving those backstories through? Because I know for a lot of writers who might be listening to this, the issue of backstory can be quite challenging, and how to get that backstory in as part of the storyline without it dominating. And also, how did you then balance that tonally with the kind of more rom-com element, I guess, of the story?
Yeah. The book is written from dual point of view. So the chapters are told from Netta and Mo's perspectives. So that allowed me to give readers an insight into their wounds. So it's not a secret that they've been through some stuff, but it's not told in a big slab because, as we know, that can be a bit jarring for readers. So dripped through, and each time it's mentioned, there's a little bit more detail given. So the reader is privy to information about Mo that Netta isn't, for example, and vice versa. And I hope that makes the reader feel like they're really on the journey a little bit more because they have that inside info. It was really important to me not to trivialize or treat those heavier topics lightly because it's within a rom-com kind of space, because they're issues that people really go through. And I really didn't want anyone to read the book and feel as though I had given it something heavy to light a touch.
Yeah.
So they are written with hopefully the gravity that they deserve. But I think real life is light and shade, and we all have things that have happened to us or that we've been a part of that have felt unpleasant. But that doesn't mean that everything is unpleasant. There's always that balance of levity, darkness. And I think that's how balance is in the book, that even though you've been through something horrible or you're currently experiencing something horrible, there are still moments of light. And so I hope that's how it comes through in the book, that you can have these moments where things feel really terrible, but good stuff can still happen concurrently. And it's that sort of mixture of experience that makes it feel, hopefully, realistic.
Very much. I thought you did a great job of that. And you did, as we do with all novels, regardless of whether they're, I think, a rom-com or something more serious or any genre really, there's always research of some kind involved.
Yeah.
And there were quite a few different things that you found that you had to research. So how did you go about doing that? Was it a matter of you just drafting it and making it up and then going back and fact-checking later? And what kind of other avenues or people did you employ as part of your research?
That's exactly what I did, Pamela. I wrote the story, and then during the editing process, I identified sections that I felt needed an expert eye on them just to make sure that I depicted them accurately. So once I had done that, then it was a case of going through my mental phone book and thinking, who do I know that could possibly help me with this or that might know somebody who could? So I was lucky enough to be able to contact a couple of doctors through different avenues, a radiographer, a member of the police force, and an author friend, Jenna Bianco, who speaks fluent Italian. And so she was able to check some scenes where I had used little snippets of Italian dialogue. I'm really glad that I checked with those experts because every single one of them was able to help me refine those scenes in a way that I wouldn't have been able to on my own. And now I feel confident putting it out into the world because I've been given the reassurance that actually, yes, it's pretty good. But I think to any aspiring writer, if you've got scenes that you're writing from a position of not being an expert in, it is really important to ask for help with those. And it can be hard to share your work because it's probably not right. And that I think the intention to make it right is really appealing to people who are being asked for help because they would prefer it to be right as well, especially if it's something to do with their profession, for example. So it was very helpful to have those experts on hand, but I didn't really have them in my phone or anything. There was one that was the sister of my friend's wife was a doctor, so I got him to ask. You'd be surprised how many connections you actually have once you start mining your network.
It's amazing, isn't it? You talk to someone and say, I really need to find out a bit more about this psychological issue. And they're like, oh, I know a person who's a psychologist or who's worked in that field or whatever. And I have always found people more than happy to help because, like you say, they want to get it right. They want the information that's going out to be accurate. Yeah. And I think, and two, it does give you that much more confidence in the writing, doesn't it? Because you go, okay, I've got that. I know that that's fine.
Absolutely.
So once you've got your revisions and all of that sort of thing done, Brooke, at what point did you think, I think I'm ready to start maybe submitting this or doing something with it? How did that process work for you?
Okay, I'll be honest, I don't think I was ever ready. My sort of trajectory was a little bit expedited by the Opal Award.
Yeah.
So when that award was announced in August 2024, I was at the conference and I had not plan to pitch because I didn't feel like the manuscript or I were ready.
Sorry, we might
But
just to fill listeners in, what did you actually have to submit for the Opal Award? How much did you submit?
the first 10,000 words of the manuscript is what was judged. That I had the draft finished by the time that conference came around, but it just wasn't ready to pitch. But someone said to me, "Oh, you'd be mad not to pitch on the back of this win. I've got this leverage now." So I pitched at the conference, and during that process, Jo Mackay, who's the head publisher at HQ, saw me preparing for my pitch, and I asked her a question. I wanted to know if it would be all right for me to take notes into the pitch with the other publisher. And she said, "I'm sure that would be fun, but I'd also like you to pitch it to me right now." And so she sat down with me and I pitched the book. And at the end of that conversation, during which I don't think I took a single breath, so nervous, she asked me to send her the complete manuscript. So I was in a situation where I had a pretty rough draft and a big publisher asking to see it. So I just said to her, "Look, I don't think it's ready yet. Can I polish it before I give it to you?" And she was more than open to that. So I was lucky that she gave me a deadline because it gave me a firm date that I had to submit by. And during that time in between, I had that structural assessment done. I redrafted it. I don't think I did anything else with my spare time other than work on the book, so that by the time I submitted it to Jo and to the other publisher who requested it, I knew it was the best that I could make it on my own in that amount of time.
Yeah.
It was still very nerve-wracking to hit send.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think having that deadline was really helpful for me just to pull a trigger.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And did you have to wait long before one or both of them got back to you?
Yes and no. So in the end, it went out to 3 publishers. 2 of them said no pretty quickly. And then with HQ, it was a really long wait to the point where I thought it had fizzled out. I now know that it's very standard to have a long wait. So it was no big deal. But in the meantime, I started writing another book to distract myself, which was a great thing to do. So I think it was about 3 months maybe that I didn't hear anything. And then I had an email from Jo saying that she had read it and that she would like to have a chat. And I just thought she was being kind and that it would be a good on you, well done, good try. Maybe she would say, "Send me what you do next. I'll look at what you do next."
Yeah.
But that phone call ended up being quite different.
Was that a "we want your manuscript" phone call?
It was I read it, I loved it, I'd like to take it to acquisitions phone call, which just completely took my breath away. It wasn't what I had been expecting. And then it took a few weeks for it to get to the acquisitions meeting. But yeah, that was definitely the start of the journey.
It's so exciting. And how did you find then, because you'd been through many kind of revisions and drafting and all of that stuff yourself, you'd had the structural assessment, so you knew what that was like to get that feedback. How did you find the kind of feedback process and the editing process once you were working with the publishing house, basically?
Yeah. I really loved it, Pamela. I found it really positive and really motivating to get feedback from people like Jo and Annabelle Blay, who have been in the industry for so long and who have a vested interest in making the story as good as it can be. And like I said earlier, I believe that I had gotten the manuscript as good as I could get it on my own, but I knew it still wasn't something I would want to have out in the world yet. I needed help to just take it to that next level. So their feedback was like a revelation, and it helped me see it in a whole new way. There was not a heap of structural changes, just a little bit, but the copy edit I found really fun, which is weird. I know there was a lot of, there's pressure because you're on time pressure and there's a lot of work to do. But it was lovely to see how the work changed and became better through each round of edits.
Yeah, that's what I love about the editing process is, like you say, if you look back at that very first draft or whatever, and then you look at the finished product, you can see how far you've come.
Yeah. And it's a source of pride because you can see the fruit of the time and the sacrifice and the hard work that you put into it. And I think that if you go into your edits with a really open mind and a desire to make your work as good as it can possibly be, then only good things can come out of it.
Yeah, 100%. And then, of course, you've got this amazing cover, Brooke.
Yeah.
Um, And so as I've mentioned, I read the first 10,000 words as part of the Opal, and it was called Just Press Play then. So
It was. Yeah.
how did you feel about the new title? And then how did you feel about the cover concept when you saw it?
I'll start with the title. I always knew that it would change because I think that's fairly standard. And I really liked the new title. At first it felt odd because I had thought about it as Just Press Play for such a long time. But I think that Better Than the Real Thing positions it better in the market. It gives readers a better idea of what to expect from the story in terms of its tone and genre. So yeah, I really liked the new title. It was an interesting process. I knew that they wanted to change it, and the publisher came back to me with a suggestion, and I was able to say no if I didn't like it. I was given full control over that. But I sat with it, I think, for a day, and it just felt right. So I was happy to change it. The cover, I couldn't love that cover more. I feel so lucky.
Yeah.
And that process was really fun too, because I was given an opportunity to provide some ideas, thoughts, some sample covers of other books that I thought looked great. And that was all given to the designer, along with, I'm sure, direction from marketing and sales and the publisher. And it came back with that beautiful cover, and I couldn't wipe the smile off my face for ages once I saw it. It was just really beautiful. It's a very nerve-wracking moment knowing that it's in your inbox and you're about to open it, because if you hate it, like, that would be really awkward.
Yeah.
I just loved it instantly. I thought that Louisa, the designer, captured the book really beautifully.
I'm just holding it up. So if anybody is watching this on YouTube, when I finally get this video up, you can see the actual colours. It's just spectacular. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. And it's hand illustrated too, which I feel makes it even more special. It's just it's a beautiful cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very lucky.
Congratulations. It's gorgeous. And how are you finding the lead up? So is release date 1st of December, Brooke?
It's actually the 25th of November.
Okay.
It's considered a December release, but it will be in stores, pending how quickly people unpack boxes. But in stores on the 25th of November.
Okay. And how are you finding the lead up to that release, and any promotional kind of things that you're doing? I know you're planning a launch.
Yeah, it's fun knowing that it's about to come out. HQ have this great program called HQ Insiders, where they have reviewers, I should say, that they send ARCs out to. So those readers are starting to receive the ARCs now, and they will start posting reviews, which is nerve-wracking, but also it's really great to get impartial feedback and see how the book's being received. It's really nice. HQ have been really supportive with marketing stuff that will start to roll out a bit closer to the release. But this is the first time I've done this. I don't really know what I'm just along for the ride. I'm doing my best with social media. It's definitely not my natural habitat, but I'm having a go. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm still finalizing the second book, so I'm very busy with that as well. So I think if all I had to focus on was the upcoming release of Better Than the Real Thing, I'd probably be going a bit nuts, but I've got lots on my plate. So yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, fantastic. And I'm pretty sure your launch is sold out. Is that right?
It did. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I didn't have a 40th birthday party. Tim and I aren't married, so I've never had a wedding. I don't really love being the center of attention. So I'm telling myself that the launch party is a party for the book, not me.
Yeah.
So it's not all on me, but I'm really looking forward to celebrating it. It's been a lot of work and a lot of support from the people around me. So to celebrate with everybody will be really nice.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely something to celebrate. It's amazing. Are you doing any other events, or do you know of any other events apart from the launch as yet that people might be interested in coming along to?
Yes, but they're not until next year. So because it's a December release, all the bookshop events will be happening in February and March next year. which I'm actually quite pleased about because I feel like it'll let me sit in the release for a little while and just enjoy that before I have to go out and speak about it. I think I'll be better able to do that once the book's been out for a little while. And so yes, February and March, people can look out for bookshop and library events around Melbourne and Victoria.
Fantastic. Nothing in Sydney?
Not yet.
Not yet. Never know. You never know.
I'd like
You
to.
might get up here. Yeah. We are going to go on, Brooke, if you do have time, just to do a few extra questions just for the bonus subscribers. But before we do that, are you able to give us any details as yet about what the second book will be about, or just a very vague idea? I know it's probably too early to give much.
Yeah, I can give you a vague idea. So it's set in the Lake District in England, which is a very beautiful part of the country. And it centres on a 44-year-old woman called Libby from Melbourne. And the male protagonist is Tom. He's an English guy. And they come together when they co-inherit a house in the Lake District. It's the same genre as Better Than the Real Thing. Characters are a little bit older. Obviously, it doesn't have that celebrity setting, but I'm having so much fun writing this book. The setting is just beautiful. Have you been there, Pamela, to the Lake District?
I have been to the Lakes District,
Oh,
yeah. I would
it's
love to go
just
back again, yeah.
absolutely stunning. And again, cast of supporting characters that I'm having a lot of fun with. And Tom is very dreamy. So it's been really fun to write.
Fantastic. And I've just remembered I've read a little bit of that, haven't I?
Yeah.
Just you were talking about
Thank
it.
you.
I thought, that's familiar. Feel very lucky. Brooke, all the best with the launch. I'm so excited for you that this is getting out into the world, and I can't wait to see where it goes and to read the next one when it comes out. Thank you so much for being on Rights for Women.
Thank you so much for having me, Pamela. It's been a pleasure.